Where are you stuck in your life? Money, health, relationships? What is it for you right now? In this video, master the skill that gets you unstuck for good. You'll learn one of the most transformative skills you can use in every area of your life. And once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. It becomes part of who you are and part of how you see the world. The skill is using questions wisely, which means how we ask, who we ask, and how we respond. Questions are one of the greatest tools, transformational tools that you will ever have in your life. Getting better at it will change your life in so many beautiful ways. First, the first key, love the questions, live the answers. I am about to read to you one of my most favorite quotations ever. And first, I'll tell you exactly when it came to me. I remember it, 1995. I had just experienced a spiritual awakening, going crazy. God whacked me upside the head with a 2x4. God was not a word I could have even used at that point in my life. Nonetheless, amazing things happened. Here's the key, though. One is my old life was instantly destroyed. I tasted an incredible new life. Bliss like I didn't even know was possible. I went from not believing, past believing, straight to knowing that there is higher power. Higher power, right? And it was really confusing, really scary, right? Because I didn't know, my old life was gone and I didn't know how to live what I had tasted, experienced, what I knew was possible. And it was my writing teacher, Pat Schneider, said to me shortly thereafter, listen to this. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves as if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language. Don't search for the answers which could not be given to you now because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then, someday, far in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. Rainer Maria Rilke. That was 31 years ago, almost to the day. Live the questions now. My life since 31 years ago has been an evolution of learning to use questions, learning how to love questions. There's a truism that the quality of the questions we ask determines the quality of our lives. Another one, let that sink in, quality of the questions determines the quality of our lives. Right? Not the answers, although there's a relationship, answers. We'll come back to that. Another important truism here, the more comfortable we can be with uncertainty, the greater the quality of our lives. What does that mean? Uncertainty means not knowing. I don't know. I don't know. Which is an incredible stance to have, not necessarily a great thing to speak out loud. We'll come to the nuance and distinction on that soon. I don't know. Socrates, greatest philosopher, perhaps one of them. The most important thing I learned in my university degree in philosophy and religion is what Socrates said. I don't know. Why? Because when we don't know, we can learn. We have the possibility. You know the story. Well, maybe you don't. So I'll tell you. A scholar, Harvard scholar, went to Japan. He was an expert on Japanese culture, including the very powerful tea ceremony that was part of the culture there. Very intricate, amazing stuff. And he was so excited when he got to Japan, he actually got to go and visit one of the greatest tea masters in the whole country. He gets to the tea ceremony, follows all the directions that the tea master assistants gave him, sat down in front of the tea master. They're at a little low table. And the professor's so excited. And he's just telling the tea master all the things that he has learned and knows about tea nonstop. The tea master says nothing. He does all the little things. He pours the tea here. He pours the tea there. He rinses the tea. He heats the cup. Pours a little bit over the image of the Buddha there. The little statue of the Buddha. And then he pours the first cup of tea for the professor. Professor is still speaking all this time until suddenly he looks down and he realizes that the tea master is pouring the tea such that the cup is overflowing. It's full. It's overflowing full. So, suddenly he says, what are you doing? The tea master says, if your cup is full, no more can enter. So the first rule, guideline, piece of advice that we get from Socrates that the tea master echoed is be an empty cup. Know nothing. Love the questions. The more we can create, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this later. Right? The more uncertainty we can tolerate, the better becomes our life, because the more certainty we need, the more we say, I'm not comfortable not knowing, so I'm just going to decide this thing. It might be premature. It might be a much smaller version than what's possible. The questions yield to the possibilities. The second key for us is stop interrogating, start inquiring. Stop interrogating, start inquiring. Meaning that what we often do is, rather than ask ourselves a question that's useful, we ask a question as a way to hurt ourselves, punish ourselves. One of my favorite ones I used for decades: what's wrong with me? Why am I so fat? Why can't I control myself? Why isn't this working? What's my problem? Why do I procrastinate? Guess what happens? Here's the really simple mechanism. Ask a question. The brain automatically formulates an answer. Well, because you're stupid, because you're an idiot, because you're a pig. Because that's the way it is. If you ask a question that is not resourceful, guess what kind of response you get? Yeah, unresourceful, not resourceful. We ask ourselves questions sometimes not because we're like sincerely looking for the answer. We ask just to beat ourselves up. It's horrible. And simply because we didn't know any better. That's how we did it. Now you know better. If you know, you know. Now you know. So stop interrogating kind of energy and start inquiring, like, I wonder. What's up with that? And one of the best ways of doing this, and it's so easy to catch once you see this, is when we ask a question and then don't respond to it. Sometimes it's called a rhetorical question. Right? Why am I always late? What's wrong with me? Right? We ask, why haven't I got started on this new project, which I'm saying is important to me? We often ask questions like that, and then clients come to me and they say, yeah, what's going on? Why am I doing this? Well, first thing is stop. What happens when you ask the question sincerely? Like, yeah, ask, feel into it. what's the response that comes to you? We're so used to outsourcing authority, deferring responsibility, abdicating our own inner wisdom, that we look to someone else, priest, teacher, coach. I don't know, you tell me. Not a best strategy. Because even if I do know the answer, it's way less effective if I give it, way better if you discover it. And so many times, and I've learned this so many times as a coach, cállate la boca, cállate mi boca, as in zip it, quiet, ask them. And what they come up with is way better than what I would have thought, or really different. And it opens up new possibilities. So here's the rule, the guideline: stop interrogating, and the punishment, start inquiring, and then really ask. Right? And ask without saying, I don't know. This is a fascinating one. I've done it many times. Almost everybody I know does it. Hey, why do you think that is? What's going on with that? I don't know. Reflex, habit. Where does it come from? What's the difference between an answer and a response? When, probably, 2 decades ago, as my teaching career evolved, I realized something important. I am never, again, going to do a question and answer session. No Q&A. I don't believe in Q&A. No Q&A. Because it implies question and answer. That there is an answer. One answer. A right answer. A lot of us were conditioned in the social, cultural, hypnotic mechanism, conditioning system to think a certain way, aka school. Conditioned that there's a right answer, and you better get the right answer. If you don't get the right answer, you're bad. There's a problem. Get an F, flunk out, public humiliation. All that can happen. I'm not saying it happened to you. I don't know. Certainly that was part of my experience in school. I didn't want to put my hand up because I might get it wrong, and then people laugh at me, the teacher tell me I'm wrong, whatever it is. Also known as red pen syndrome. So we've been conditioned into, I don't know. Strike it from your vocabulary when it comes to responding to a question. Here's the nuance. Keep it as a stance. Keep curiosity, because you know that curiosity skilled the cat. Curiosity skilled the cat. What does that mean? Yes, normally it's curiosity killed the cat. Not true. Curiosity skilled the cat, because when we're curious, we ask questions and we learn things. Curiosity skilled the cat. So keep that I don't know stance from Socrates. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. I'm curious. My cup is empty. Let's find out. Let's find out what's possible. What's a response? So instead of question and answer, I developed question and response. Here's a question. Awesome. Here's a response. My first response. Here's another response. So when you ask yourself questions, rather than glossing over it with a rhetorical question, you say, yeah, why haven't I started that project? Then pause. Well, maybe I'm scared. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I think there's something I need to understand first or do. Maybe such a good word in this part, because we're just coming up with possibilities. And what's beautiful about question ourselves and then response is it could be the 8th or the 20th response that gets us to, oh, I hadn't thought of that, hadn't seen that. Sometimes that's all it takes to unlock, well, I have started it. Marcus Aurelius said, the impediment to action advances action. Sometimes people say it as the obstacle becomes the way. The obstacle is the way. So what's the thing? What's the problem? What's in the way? Why is this, whatever the contraction is? Yeah, find out. Lean into it. Ask about it. Hey, what's going on? What are you here to teach me? And that obstacle, the thing that was blocking us from action, then once we discover it's like, oh, I can be friends with the fact that I'm afraid of starting that or speaking that or talking to him or talking to her. Oh, that's okay. I can be afraid and actually I can still talk to them. Or I can inquire deeper. Why am I afraid? What's up with that fear? Hey, fear, what do you have for me? What's there? In the yoga world, there is a misconception about Ganesha. Ganesha, the elephant-headed god who is the remover of obstacles. And I know for me, I won't speak for you, for me there was a lot of my life when I prayed to Ganesha, remove the obstacle, make it easy for me, give me all green lights. Little by little, I've learned that Ganesha's smarter, more sophisticated than that. The obstacle, he's not there to remove the obstacle. He's there to help us transform. The obstacle is the path for us to transform. So, the second part of this, rather than interrogate, we inquire. I wonder, what could that be? Leave it open. Let it be open. Ask, and I'm giving you many of my favorite questions here. Better questions, better life. A great question, another one, is what else? Well, it could be that I'm scared. It could be that I need to know something. It could be that I'm just overtired. None of them feel like I'm out. What else? Oh, well, what else? What else? What else? Oh, maybe there's a different way of doing it. Maybe there's actually something else I would really rather get into. Martin Fisher said this, I love. A conclusion is the place where you got tired of thinking. Conclusion is the place you got tired of thinking. And I'm going to give you one more. I love words. I love questions, quotations. Wallace Wattles, what a great name. Amazing philosopher, teacher. Great book, The Science of Getting Rich. He said, there is no labor which most people shrink as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. There is no labor from which people shrink as they do from that of consecutive sustained thought. What does that mean? Well, one of the reasons we don't actually ask ourselves the question sincerely, instead we do the interrogation, self-punishment, instead of actually inquiring, because sometimes it takes work. Just simple as that. It's actually work involved in answering the question. Stop. It takes a little brain power, some staying power. Maybe even gets me into uncomfortable territory. Right? And that's okay. I'll give you an example. A client of mine, super cool guy, amazing artist, beautiful stuff that he creates. What do you call it? Visual art, like paintings and stuff. And does this beautiful visual art, yet he often secludes himself. And because he has a desire and goal to create his art more into the world, right, to sell paintings more, it's useful to be in contact with people. Because guess who buys paintings? People. Okay, yeah, institutions, sure, but it's people in institutions. So we were talking about, well, why is it that you resist talking to people, telling people about the art, or inquiring with people if they would like to buy the art? Well, I don't know. Okay, well, here's a great question. Are you ready? This is a showstopper question for yourself and for others. We'll talk about questions to others in a moment. If you did know, what would you say? If you did know, what would you say? Right? And that's especially useful if we haven't yet trained ourselves and others to not say, I don't know. And what's the translation, by the way, for I don't know? Here's a translation I use for myself and with clients and with friends if they're open to it. I don't know really means I'm not willing to inquire. I'm not willing to inquire. I don't know. Okay. Well, if you did know, what would you say? 90% of the time, people say, well, if I did know, I would say it's because I'm shy. That's what he said. One place where this does not work well, I'll tell you, for me anyway, is with my daughter. Zeta, if you did know, what would you say? I would say I don't know. Okay, I'm not pushing. I'm shy. Okay, well, what does that mean? What goes on with shy? Well, sometimes like I just don't feel like going. Okay, cool. You don't feel like going to see people. How come? What could happen? Like what's the negative thing out there? The worry, the concern. Oh, well, they might judge me. Oh, okay, yeah. And if they judge you, what happens? You see the thing here? Ask more questions. Another question. So useful for ourselves. What else? Wonder how else that could work. Eventually get to, yeah, they could judge me. And what happens then? Well, not much really. What is judgment anyway? Judging ourselves. Would it be useful to be free of that? Yeah, actually that would be useful. Right. So when inquiring to self, so useful to do it orally. Yeah, why do I do that? Well, this way. I actually love doing that with AI, speaking into AI, because even though it's not a real person, it does, in a way, for me, feel like I'm talking to someone, and it's recorded. And then sometimes I get useful things back, especially if I prompt it in certain ways. Still, just on one's own, speaking it out is useful, like stream of consciousness style. For me, even better is journaling. I do this every day. Yeah, what's going on? What am I feeling with that? What matters? What's important right now? What else? If I did know, what would I say? If this were easy, how would I do it? And here's one of the most powerful questions ever. How did I create that? Yeah, so-and-so slammed the door in my face yesterday. How did I create that? I enrolled a new client yesterday, and it was so fun and easy, and already we're doing like great work together. How did I create that? Right? So it can be a negative, quote negative, like a result I didn't want. How did I create that? Well, I wasn't really paying attention, or I was impatient, or I was pushy, or good, useful information. Now I have more choice going forward. Or how did I create that result that I love? Well, I showed up. I was curious. I took some action. Oh, good. Now I know what works. I can do more of that, which leads to the last part of number 2. Are you with me? Are you ready for 2 of the coolest questions that you can have in your back pocket and use anytime with yourself and with others? And it's such a great technique that it's not even a technique. And it's so easy to use that when you use it, it'll feel like you're not using any technique and people won't even notice. 2 questions, each have 3 letters. www, by the way, check this out. Fun fact. www, what went well? How many syllables in each of those? What went well? That's 3. www, that's more. Interesting, right? What went well? What went well? Oh, I just came from the airport. Oh, cool. What went well? I just had an audition. Cool. What went well? Train yourself to make that the first question you ask yourself and other people when reviewing after something goes on. So valuable. Because again, most of us have red tape syndrome. We're just so wired with negativity bias to look for what didn't go well, how I sucked, what wasn't good, what I better change for next time. And what I want to change for next time, that's a good question. We'll get to that. What went well first? And if that's troubling, get at least 3 responses to that. Then 3 other letters, EBI. Even better if. Even better if next time I speak more slowly. Even better if next time I research before I show up at the meeting. Even better if next time I ask more questions and speak less. Even better if, which is way better than what's the missed opportunity? Well, that's going back. Can't change the past. I can learn from it though. It would be even better if next time, a resourceful question. Are you ready? Good question. For the last key. The last key is ask to awaken. Ask to awaken, and we shift our attention here toward other, apparent other, because we're all one, right? Ask to awaken means how you engage with other people, and we're other beings. I have communications with animals many times. What do you need? What's going on? How can I help you? Right? Ask to awaken them, the giant within them, the beauty within them. Ask to awaken the relationship to a whole other level. Right? This one, if you only take one key from this and you apply this one in your life, it will change your life in so many beautiful ways. Right? Ask more questions of others. Train yourself to ask questions. And if you look in your life now, because you're going to be especially tuned into questions, guaranteed you're going to find that some of the people in your life ask a lot of questions. And some don't ask very many questions. And notice who you enjoy being around more. We love being with people that ask us questions. Why? Why is that the case? Because it shows they're interested in us. They're curious. They want to know about us. They value us. That's what questions convey. Right? Ask more questions of other people. Great questions. Follow-up questions. How are you? What's going on? Where you been? What's exciting for you? Oh, what else about that? Tell me more. Was that a question? There was no question mark. Tell me more. It's a question. It doesn't have to be an interrogative. I want to know more. Would you say more about that? Oh, what happened with that? What brought you to say that? How did that occur to you? The book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. People said that's a book you got to read. For a couple decades, I heard about that book since I first got into personal and spiritual development, right, 31 years ago. It took me until about 10 years ago to read it because I had this like preconceived judgment of it that it's just like manipulating people, how to win friends and influence people. I had a blockage to what influence really is. I thought it was something negative and manipulative and harmful to people. I read the book and I was like, bing, holy moly, this is an amazing book. It's one of those, like, everybody would do well to read this book. In the book, Dale Carnegie teaches about the power of asking other people questions. We love to talk about ourselves. We're interesting. We love to be valued. Great story about a prime minister election in England a while back. 2 candidates happened to have dinner with Winston Churchill's mother in the space of the same week. I don't know how that happened. A newspaper reporter found out that she had had dinner with each of them that week. Newspaper reporter went to her and said, "Miss Churchill, when you had dinner with so-and-so, what was it like? When you had dinner with Benjamin Disraeli, what was it like?" She said, "Well, when I had dinner with so-and-so, I was amazed. I thought he was the most interesting person in all of England." Wow, okay, cool. So then when you had dinner with Benjamin Disraeli, what was that like? With that dinner, I concluded that I'm the most interesting person in all of England. Why? What does it teach? Who won the election? And you know what's cool? Sometimes we don't even need to respond to a question. Just asking the question starts the brain working. If I did know, I would say, if this were easy, I would. The brain is a great tool. Everything that you want in your life comes through people. More money, greater business, happier relationships, more health, higher quality of life, all of that comes through relationships. Sales is such a beautiful art that's so often misunderstood. Because I thought this, a lot of people think sales is about convincing you got to get this thing. You need to buy my thing. Sales is transformation. Sales is asking people, what's going on for you? What's challenging? What's problematic? And then finding out, is there a way that I can be of help? Can I serve this person? And if so, inviting that person to the possibility. It's an amazing opportunity. And if we don't do that, if we say, hi, you're a potential customer, let me tell you how great my thing is. In the medical field, that's called prescription without diagnosis. What does that mean? It means, here, this is what you should do. I don't know actually what's going on or what your problem is, but here, I get paid if you do this. Ugh, that's gross, right? It's gross in sales, gross in medicine. It's malpractice. Instead, though, and what makes sales fantastic and human and loving is simply to ask questions. What's going on? Tell me more about that. How long's it been like that? What's that like for you? That's such an amazing question. It's one of my favorites. What's that like for you? Wow. Right? And not because I'm trying to get somewhere, just from like real curiosity, like, hey. And I love asking other people, how did you create that? Especially, almost exclusively actually, with the general public, with friends, with people I meet. I interview people all the time. Yeah, I have a podcast, 150 interviews there. I love it because I learn. I love it because I help bring the brilliance out of the person I'm interviewing. I do it all the time, though. Whenever I meet people, they tell me something about themselves, because I've asked them questions, and I find something that's amazing. They're brilliant at, in, doing, being. And I say, how did you create that? Remember this one time, my daughter and I, where were we? We were in a small island off of Bali, and we met this really amazing family. My daughter at the time was like 5, and it was a couple, and they had like 3 teenage children there, and we all ended up having dinner together at this little like funky grassroots resort. And I was just so like amazed at this beautiful family. They were so loving and fun and quirky. And we had this great conversation. After dinner, all of the children went out. And so I said to the parents, how did you create such a beautiful, loving family? Guess what they said? Oh, I don't know. It was luck. Oh, just lucky. People love to do that. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I don't know. Imagine there was something you did or didn't do. How did you create that? If it comes from a loving place, staying with it, well, if you did know, what would you say? Take a guess. I learn so much from people. And they learn oftentimes too. I love it when people ask me questions like, oh, never thought about that before. Yeah, the reason I love doing that is because this. Every relationship improves through asking questions. Learn to love the questions and live into the answers. Ask better questions, have a bigger life. Learn to love the questions themselves, like they are books in a foreign tongue, so we can live into the answer. Find out, learn. The more we can be open, like, I don't need to know the answer. What else? The more space we have to discover and create our lives. Second key, stop. Please, stop interrogating yourself. Don't do it. Don't hurt yourself. Don't punish yourself with questions that aren't useful, that aren't loving, and instead, start inquiring. Stop interrogating, start inquiring. Like, for real. Ask for real. Why? I wonder. Well, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Come up with responses, possibilities. It's not about being right. It's about learning and growing, expanding. And the third key, ask to awaken. Awaken possibilities, awaken other people, awaken their brilliance, awaken better quality relationships. Y'all, questions are the answer. Questions are an answer. You have it inside you to ask questions that change the world and change your life forever. I love that you're here. I love that you are interested in making your life a masterpiece. You deserve it. I love you. Aloha.